So, hey everybody, this is Shivji from Nutanix. I am a senior software developer at Nutanix, and I sort of pretty much work full time on Pulsar there. I am a developer at Nutanix, and I've been working for sort of 8 years in open source. It's to do with databases, whether it's to do with databases, streams, data analytics, and all of these. I am a contributor at Pulsar, and previously I was working at MySQL database, and I was a contributor to that code base as well. You can find my LinkedIn and Twitter there on the right. So here is a summary of what we are going to cover in this talk. We will first go through a little bit of background of Apache Pulsar. Um, this will be really quick just for the completeness of the whole topic. Then we will go through the different components in the Apache Pulsar deployment. We go to the security of different components, how they talk to each other in a secure way, which is sort of the heart of this presentation. And going beyond, we will look at separate components and how to set up security among those modules. And then we will sort of wait a bit for the Q&A session, and I will look at the questions you have in the chat section. Great, let's get started with a little bit of background on Apache Pulsar. So what's Apache Pulsar? It's basically a streaming and messaging platform. This is how the Pulsar official docs actually defines it. It's a cloud native software. It's a distributed system, and it is a combination of a streaming platform and a messaging platform. Basically, it's a PubSub. You can produce messages into Apache Pulsar, and then multiple different consumers can actually consume those. So in short, it's a PubSub. If we look at it very, very quickly as to why Apache Pulsar is great, it has a modular design. We will, going ahead, talk about the 3 modules and how to set up secure communication among those modules, how to also set up authorization in addition to authentication. Then the other highlight of Apache Pulsar is that it is very easy to horizontally scale the cluster. We have been running Apache Pulsar in production for over an year, and we haven't really had downtime. We have been scaling pretty easily all the different modules without really caring about the other modules. So the modules can actually scale quite independently in a horizontal fashion. It offers a very low latency publish and subscribe with a really good support for durability on your local data stores, as well as you can offload your older data to an archive store. Multi-tenancy, so you can have multiple different clusters in a geographically distributed fashion. So it aids your disaster recovery. And then you have multi-tenancy, so you have not only have topics like other PubSubs have, but on top of them you can group topics to make namespaces, you can group namespaces to make tenants and things like that. So depending on your use case, you can define different things on different tenant levels. We will actually talk about different components in the cluster now, and then next go over how to set up security among those components. So there are 3 main components of Apache Pulsar. One that aids coordination, which is Apache Zookeeper. Apache Zookeeper is something that is a pretty popular Apache project. It's sort of the coordination or metadata related service, and it is a backbone of a lot of different Apache projects which are really, really popular. Super stable, and it is used by the other 2 components of the Pulsar cluster. So Pulsar essentially uses Zookeeper for storing metadata information, for storing schema of data, which topics data is where in the storage system, so all different kinds of things. The other component is actually the storage layer of Pulsar, Apache Bookkeeper. Apache Bookkeeper is again uh, top level Apache project. It's pretty stable, and it's also used separately as a storage layer at different companies in the industry. It's also the backbone of Pulsar, like I said. And the third component of Pulsar is actually the broker that accepts data, if you look at it from the publisher end, and it dispatches data to your different consumers. The broker is also responsible for allowing you an HTTP server where you can perform all your admin tasks, like you can create a topic through admin API, you can upload schemas for that topic, you can provide different authorization uh, or privileges to different people there. You can sort of set up client isolation there. So there are a lot of different things on the documentation. You can find a list of all the REST APIs that are available there. So these three components are actually really, really important to understand. Zookeeper for coordination, Bookkeeper for data storage, and broker for dispatching information. Uh, the other bit of communication that actually happens is a something to do with geo replication. You have different clusters, and data is replicating instantly among these clusters. So it's not only the communication within one cluster that we need to secure. We also need to secure communication across clusters if you have a geo replicated deployment. We will very quickly look at a little bit of background on security. Again, this will be quick, but I wanted to sort of include this for the completeness of presentation, so we know our terms that we use going ahead. Um, TLS is something that most people would know. It's transport layer security. It has different versions that are there. We don't really have enough time to go through all of those, but then there's a lot available on web. Essentially, there are three main things that TLS allows you to do. It allows you to encrypt your data. It allows you to provide authentication. So only certain people are allowed to exchange information, not more than those. And it also allows you to verify that the data that's going over the network is not tampered with before it reached you, the server. The other definition that we need to get familiar with is certificate authority. It's basically an organization that sort of has that uh, ensures that the users are actually genuine users. A server is a genuine server. It's not a compromised one. It helps you establish identity. So your certificate authority basically will provide you public keys which you can distribute to your clients. So any server uh, will when it gets request from the clients, it can help understand the identity of that server, and CA will in effect tell you looking at the identity of the server on the other end, telling you if it is a genuine client, basically who it is claiming it to be. You will have a pair of certificates, private and public key certificates. Private, obviously, like the name says, you keep it private. Public key you distribute. Your CA, like I said, is responsible for saying yes, your clients are who they say they are, and we, the CA, certify that. So in general, there are three different set of files. Whether we look at Zookeeper, we will look at Bookkeeper, or we look at the brokers. Everywhere you will have sort of three different files. One is the CA's root certificate. Then you will have private key and public key RSA key pair. And for the purpose of this presentation, we will talk about certificates that are in X509 format for any sort of digital certificate. We will use that. So we will actually talk about when on going on authentication level, one-way TLS, which means you enable HTTPS on the server, or you can use mutual TLS, which means the server and client are both going to sort of authenticate each other. The server, when it gets requests from client, it will try to sort of authenticate that, and the client, when it talks to server, also sort of authenticates that. We can do that in different ways. You can have a CA which is on a domain, let's say your company.com or asterisk.yourcompany.com, and then you can generate public certificates to your clients, let's say client1.yourcompany.com and client2.yourcompany.com. In our case, let's say broker uses Zookeeper. So Zookeeper can have certificates which the broker trusts, and it is generated using the same CA. Going ahead, there are other set of definitions that we need to sort of familiarize ourselves with. Is we've already talked about X509 certificate files. We will use those. These are nothing but your password protected files that sit on the same file system as your application. There are, if you look at the configurations of Apache Pulsar, there are three different formats of certificate files that you need to be aware of. JKS is your Java key store. It was the default format used for all your Java applications until Java 8. PKCS12, that's since Java 9, Java has actually moved to PKCS formats. And the difference between JKS and PKCS is that JKS is actually format specific to Java. PKCS is language neutral, so you can use it across languages. Then you have your plain PEM files. These are basically, so the JKS and PKCS, these are binary files, but your PEM is base64 encoded, so you can open it, you can read the characters in there. And it's the files that you see between begin certificate and end certificate, sort of set of characters there. And at times we will need to generate some files which are PEM. You can actually convert those to PKCS12, and then you can convert it to JKS, and the vice versa. From JKS, you can again get back your PEM files. This is something that we've had to do a lot of times where we were setting up our security layer on top of Apache Pulsar. So talking about formats and components of Apache Pulsar, like we said earlier, we have Zookeeper, we have Bookkeeper, and Broker. For Zookeeper, we can use PEM and JKS. That's the support that Zookeeper provides as a different project already. For this presentation, we will talk about JKS. For Bookkeeper, which is the storage layer of Pulsar, we will use the support it provides for JKS extension certificates. And with the Broker, it provides in the latest version PEM as well as JKS support. We will use PEM for this presentation. Almost getting to the end of the background on security. There are some OpenSSL commands which are pretty handy when you sit down to set up your security on any cluster, in fact, not only Pulsar. So this is a command. OpenSSL has a lot of different commands that you can use. Here I'll go through 3 or 4 of them to actually discuss the ones that were most used when we set up our security layer. This is a command where you specify that your X509 certificates are there, and you want to get this file which is on your local disk where you execute this command, and you want to see the data regarding details of that certificate. So CA certificate will typically have details like version. If you open up and run this command, you will see all of these. You have your serial number, your signature, your issuer. Validity is something that is pretty handy when you sit down to debug issues with connections. Um, then there are a host of other information. Um, in the spirit of this presentation, I will omit too many details, but I have put down a link here where you can sort of go and look at the format. You can look at details of what these things are, and this is actually a really good site where I found a lot of basic details which are explained in a good way. Then if you have your private key and you want to make sure that there's nothing bad that has happened to them, you can run this command with your certificate file, and you can ask it to check. OpenSSL will actually tell you something on the lines of your key is okay, and I'm going to write your RSA key, so you can look at it and tell me that, yeah, this is the certificate that I'm actually expecting to see. You will have a lot of characters here, beginning with begin private key and ending with this is a typo, I think. This will be end private key. Once you set up TLS on a port, this is the command that you can use. You can provide hostname and port, uh, and this will tell you whether that port is serving TLS traffic. Now we will talk about the coordination layer of Pulsar, and we will see how to set up TLS, which is encryption and authentication on Zookeeper side of things for secure coordination on so on the Pulsar cluster. So if you go through the Zookeeper documentation, you will find that by default, network communications of Zookeeper are not encrypted. You will have to sort of enable some of the latest features to get encrypted traffic going from one Zookeeper node to other peer Zookeeper node in the cluster, or from the clients of Zookeeper to Zookeeper. The client of Zookeeper in our case are um, broker nodes and the bookkeeper nodes. So we will use the SSL feature of Zookeeper. SSL and TLS are actually sort of synonyms. There is history behind that. Um, ZK is the acronym I'll use in the slides for referring to Zookeeper. It was actually initially designed over Java Neo packages, but then later there was a support for the advanced version of IO package, which is Netty package for Java, and it is on top of Netty packages that SSL is supported in Zookeeper. So again, going back to default installation, it's not secure and it's using Java Neo package. If you want to use secure communication between Zookeeper peer nodes or from Zookeeper clients to Zookeeper servers, you will have to switch to using Netty. So this is how you ask Zookeeper to use Netty. So for clients of Zookeeper, you ask the client library to use this class. You can set up Java system property. We will go through how you do that on Bookkeeper or a broker side, which is the client of Zookeeper in our case. And on the server, which is a Zookeeper server, you will set up the server to use this class. Um, Next, we will, like we discussed earlier, set up security on the server side. So the server is listening for secure data on a different port, and the clients also will ask the clients, which are bookkeeper and broker in our case, to talk over secure network. For Zookeeper, the default port is 2181. The security port will be 2281. So we'll have to ask the server and the client to talk over those, and we will have to sort of make sure that the server is listening for traffic there and the client is sending encrypted traffic there. And when you want to ask Zookeeper nodes to talk to each other over encrypted traffic, we will use something called Quorum SSL. This is a lingo that Zookeeper configuration uses a lot. So let's remember that Quorum is SSL is something that we will use for setting up secure communication among Zookeeper peer nodes. So to set up the server, so Zookeeper as a server needs to be told that you have to listen to secure traffic, and this is how you will do that. When you look at the Pulsar configurations, you will find a zookeeper.conf. um, Go add these different configurations in your Zookeeper conf, and this will tell your server that it should listen to secure traffic as well. So like we discussed earlier, we will have to ask our server to use netty package instead of neo, because it's only on netty packages that SSL is supported in Zookeeper server. Then we talked about private keys and public keys and certificate authorities and all of that. Your key stored location is actually your location for your private key. This is your JKS that I have used, and it's working quite well for me. You have to provide a password which can be used to read this private key.jks. This is trust store, which is your CA file, certificate authorities file, the root certificate. The password to read this is to be provided here, and you want to allow hostname verification. So the CA, when it gets requests from clients, it actually looks at the host name and the associated public certificates to verify the identity. Additionally, apart from providing the keys like we discussed here and asking the clients to talk on, I think I there, yeah. So this was the first slide we were looking at. You set up your private keys and public key and CA, all of that there. You ask Zookeeper to talk on netty. Then on the Zookeeper server, like I said, 2181 is the default port of Zookeeper. It will communicate there in a non-secure way or a non-encrypted way. You can ask the Zookeeper server to listen to encrypted traffic on 2281. Port unification is also something that is useful if you don't have a new cluster and you have a cluster that is being already used. Then you can use the port unification feature of Zookeeper, which basically tells Zookeeper server that, you know what, I want to turn port unification equal to true, which means while I am transitioning from non-TLS to TLS traffic, uh, in between I want to have a stage where I will accept TLS as well as non-TLS traffic. Eventually, when you are done with all of your TLS setup, you are going to say that port unification is false, so you will only accept TLS traffic and you want to refuse non-TLS traffic. So we talked of what to do on the server side. In our Pulsar cluster, the clients of Zookeeper are the bookkeeper nodes and the broker nodes. And on all of bookkeeper and broker nodes, you will have to open up your Pulsar env.sh, which is part of your conf file in Pulsar. And you have a variable there in Pulsar env.sh, which is called Pulsar extracts. You will have to set up all of these. This is also something that we have already discussed. You're asking your client to talk over netty package. You are providing your own sort of key store, which is your private cert. You are using JKS format here. You provide password to open this. Then you have your CA certificate here in the JKS format, and you use a password uh, to open up this, and that password is being provided in the environment variable. And then you ask your Zookeeper client to talk in a secure way. Like we talked earlier, SSL quorum is the keyword that Zookeeper uses for traffic between Zookeeper peer nodes. It's again sort of similar configurations, just that instead of in the previous slide, you can see we talked only about SSL. We talk of quorum SSL now. So SSL quorum is true, which means peer traffic is encrypted. Then you provide sort of your key store, which means your private key, password associated with it, your public key, and the password associated with it. And then again, like we talked earlier, we enable hostname verification. So with these being put in zookeeper.conf on the Zookeeper nodes, the nodes are now talking to each other in on TLS enabled traffic. So with that, we set up Zookeeper to talk in a secure way and accept TLS as well as non-traffic if port unification was on. So now we will go to Bookkeeper. We will set up what we have to set up for Zookeeper clients in Pulsar env.sh on the Bookkeeper nodes. But apart from that, when Bookkeeper works as a server, it also needs to be told that the clients of Bookkeeper, which in our case are the broker nodes, they also talk to Bookkeeper on TLS traffic. Uh, in Zookeeper, we talked of two different ports, 2181 for non-TLS traffic, 2281 for TLS traffic. In Bookie, it actually uses only one port, 3181, that is used for TLS as well as non-TLS traffic. So your OpenSSL commands to see if that port is serving TLS traffic or non-TLS was not working for us. But you employ other ways to see that the traffic is encrypted after you set up those, and I'll talk how you do that. So if you open up your bookkeeper.conf on a Pulsar deployment, you will find a section called TLS settings. You go there, you provide your you see your configuration options related to TLS. You say that I want to use TLS provider as OpenSSL. This is the TLS provider that I want to use. I want my clients to talk to me in an authenticated fashion. And the key store type that, like I said earlier, I want to use is JKS. Then there are other configurations like you want to provide your key store path, your password for the key store, the private key. Then again, your CA cert, which is your trust store, CA cert file in the JKS format and the password for it. Next, we come to broker. Broker is where all your applications will connect and produce data there and consume data there. So when broker connects to the application, it needs to be configured in a way that it accepts secure traffic from your applications. Again, when broker nodes talk to each other, they need to be told that they should talk among themselves, the peer nodes of broker, secure fashion. And the way we will do that is by doing the configurations that we'll go through now. For the broker actually serves two purposes. Like I said earlier, it is a dispatcher of messages, as well as it serves as a server for all the admin tasks. For the dispatcher, the module that publishes and consumes data, your non-secure port is 650, your TLS port is 6651. For admin, your unencrypted traffic goes over 8080 and your TLS traffic goes over 8443. So you can ask your configuration to sort of, you can write 6651 here, you can write 8443 here, you can probably get rid of these. Again, you have to, this is for the clients of broker, which is your application. For secure communication or TLS communication between broker and your application, you will have to provide your cert file paths here. Again, like I said, we will use the PIM files. This is my CA certificate. This is my private key file. So I'm sorry, this is our public key, this is our private key, this is our CA cert, and then you want to say that I don't want to allow insecure connections. Basically, insecure connections, if they are allowed, the client hostname verification will not be done. You want to do that, so it by default it comes as false. You need to turn it to true from here to not accept untrusted TLS traffic. You can choose your TLS protocols, whether you want to use v1.2, 1.1, 1. We use v1.1 ourselves. Then you have your cipher algos that you can choose here. Here are the so here is an example of that, and you can put a comma separated list of different algorithms here. We need not probably go over all of these. This is just to show that Broker also allows you to use your JKS files, the key store, trust store files with the passwords to set up TLS on Broker. So apart from these, you will also have to open up your client.conf, which I have omitted for not including too many details. You will find places where you can put in your tokens. You can put it in your certificate files in the client.conf. So that will help your clients talk in the TLS way. For enabling authentication, we actually use the plain JWT tokens. So the tokens are distributed to clients, and the tokens are associated with certain principles, and a particular token could only be allowed to produce or only be allowed to consume or do both of them, or it could be given admin rights. This is refresh duration. You want to enable authorization, you want to enable authentication. This is your provider. For us, it's a JWT token, so we use sort of that class here. You can put a super user here called admin, and you will sort of generate your JWT token with the subject as admin, and that will allow you to this whatever keyword you use here, it will basically allow it to become the super user. To set up your broker nodes to talk among themselves using TLS and using your JWT token based authentication, you can use these configurations. So the broker client, when it connects to the broker server, which is like peer-to-peer communication of brokers, it uses TLS. The authentication plugin is authentication token. The token can be placed here in this fashion. Token colon your JWT token, and your CA cert file can be placed here. You can also use third-party authentication provider. For instance, Authens is one, and that is sort of supported as well. So like we discussed earlier, you can set up authentication using, so we use JWT token, so we provide that plugin, and then you can either provide a cert file, or you can provide your token depending on what plugin you are using. Those details can be filled here. Your clients, okay, I think I expressed that I omitted client. I think included them at the end. So this is on your client side, that your broker clients, which is your applications. You are asking your clients, which is your applications, to use the plugin. In this case, we are talking about authentication TLS, or you can have authentication token here. And depending on what you have here, you can provide details like we talked earlier, and you can sort of fill in these things that we've already discussed in other modules. So you are using type store as JKS. You can use PIM here and provide, if you are using JKS, you can provide your path here and your password here. So that was our talk on how you can use secure traffic between different modules of Pulsar. There are other modules where we have not discussed in the interest of time, but where you want to set up TLS, which is the UI part of it, the Pulsar manager. Then if you are using a Pulsar proxy, you can set up there. There is enough details in the documentation to do that. And then the replicated multi-cluster deployment that is again controlled by the same configurations that you use for peer-to-peer broker communication. I've put in some good references that I found useful. Pulsar documentation. Then there's a document that explains the digital certificates really well. Mutual TLS, how you do that in Java, that is being really explained well here. Your documentation regarding broker TLS on the official doc of Pulsar, Bookkeeper doc, are sort of good starting points. And then for Zookeeper, you can look at the Zookeeper conference docs or Zookeeper official docs to see what we discussed here, as in how to set up TLS on Zookeeper or mutual TLS on Zookeeper, or you can use SASL, and all of those are documented on the Zookeeper wiki. So we will now turn to Q&A. Let me get back to hop in and see if we have questions.
Here, I think your talk is really detail oriented. Secure is very important on all of the network to make our Pulsar deployment. So I was wondering, are all those configuration is what you configured in Nutanix? And have you met any issue in using Pulsar at Nutanix, and how you solve it?
Can I see the questions myself?
Yeah. I mean, are all the configuration you shared during this talk is what you configured at Nutanix? And the second one is, have you met any issue in using Pulsar at Nutanix, and how do you solve it?
Can you repeat the question, Jennifer?
Oh, sure. I mean, you have shared to us some detailed configuration for the Pulsar brokers and different configuration. I was wondering, all those configuration you shared at this in your talk is what you configured at Nutanix?
Yes. These are all the configurations that we have set up, and we are using these to make all the network communication within nodes of a cluster or across clusters. All of those are using TLS in our case, and for authentication, we use JWT tokens, so token-based authentication.
Oh, that's great. And have you ever met any issue in using Pulsar?
I don't remember too many things on top of my head, but I think the one thing I would really want to mention is that whenever I have issue, I go to Slack. I reach out there, and I think the Slack community is really helpful. There were issues when I set up all the security, and I think the Slack channel of Pulsar is a really good place to get all your answers.
Yeah, Slack is very useful, and we sincerely encourage everyone to join our Pulsar Slack if you might any question, and we can support you there. And thank you very much for sharing today.
Sure, pleasure.
Okay, and thank you everybody for joining us today. We have another talk in the next session, and we can just exit this one and continue the next one. And bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.